Thank you very much, Natalie. Thank you, Commissioner Mr. Jolovsky, for welcoming us to this conference. And I'll say I've been looking very much forward today. The program that has been put forth for the rest of the day is very, very inspiring. I look very much forward to it. And once again, thank you for the opportunity to share some of the Danish experiences, the journey that we have been on, and some of the challenges that we see ahead. My name is Jens Krieger Røyen. I'm head of division for data and architecture within the Danish Agency for Digitalisation, which is part of the Danish Ministry of Finance. And I must say this is most exciting times to be in our line of work, to work with data and architecture. It has been exciting these past years, and I think what is ahead of us is even more exciting. The talk I will give, I will just tell you a little bit about Denmark, the Danish context. We are all Europeans, but we are also different, and we must take our local customs institutional framework into consideration. It gives us different opportunities and challenges. I will share with you what the Danish context is. I would like to share with you the digital life of a Dane. That would be me. I will share that. I will talk about digital transformation in Denmark, which I think we are on the verge upon. We're just starting on it. I will tell you how that feels and what it looks like in Denmark. I will talk about how we try to support interoperability and the digital transformation, working with semantics and other things. And finally, I will try to give a perspective from what we have learned and tried to do in Denmark and what we see also on our common European journey ahead. But first of all, a little bit about Denmark. We are a small country, 6 million people. We have a very large public sector, one of the largest percentage-wise in Europe and the world. It's involved everywhere in the public sector. We are blessed with a high degree of trust from the citizens to the public sector, to the politicians, to the bureaucrats. We are very blessed. We try to keep it very much, but there are a low level of, there's a high level of trust, and we try to keep this. But this is also very, very challenging with all the data, big data, and you all know we have to keep this trust. This is fundamental going forward. We have a very, very high internet penetration, a digital skilled population and workforce. We have a long tradition for good base registries, which goes back a very, very long way. Our persons registry has 50 years anniversary next year, and we have a very long tradition that has been very, very important for us. And we have a very good, strong tradition for cross-government cooperation. We are here with 2 good colleagues from the municipalities, and we work very closely in the digitization of the whole of the public sector. So that's the Danish context. And one more very, very important fact. 26 years ago, a hot June night, I must share with you, on the verge of the World Cup, Denmark was the European champions in football. That is a thing you really must know about Danes. We cherish that moment very, very much. Going into the World Cup, we have great expectations. I hope we will meet Argentina in the round of 16. I hope we will go on. I don't know. I hope the best. Yes, football is very important. And so is, yes. Thank you. Digital life in Denmark. Digital life in Denmark starts here. This is a picture taken from my kitchen table. The yellow card holds my personal ID. I have one personal ID number which I'm given at birth and which is used everywhere in the public administration and also everywhere where I do a transaction. When I buy a car, when I take a bank loan, everywhere we identify us by the same single personal number, and we have been doing that for like 50 years. So that was an infrastructure that was in place. On top of this, we have built a digital ID, which we all carry. We have a little card with ID numbers for 2-factor identification, and we have just enabled this on the iPhone, so it's very easy to do a digital ID. We have made this in cooperation with the banking sector, and this is used everywhere in the Danish society. So I use this when I log on to my web bank, and everywhere else where I must use a digital ID, I use this. This makes digital service very, very easy and is a very important foundation for good service and coherence. And when we use this for digital communication, this is a picture of my digital postbox. All letters that I receive from government, from municipalities, I receive here. Everything I get from my bank, from my mortgage, my real estate. I just did a refinancing of my mortgage, so from the cadastre, I got a new certificate. Everything goes in here. And it is like that for all Danes. Why is it that so? Because we have made it mandatory for all citizens, 15 years and up, to have a digital post box and receive all communications from the public sector digitally in this post box. And it works. We have made it possible to get an exemption. If you, for some reason, don't have access to IT or something, you can get an exemption. 91% of our citizens are registered for the digital postbox and receive everything this way. 9% of our citizens have asked for an exemption and they still get the paper letters. But as a main, we all get everything digital and it just works. And I think most people are very, very satisfied. It's much easier than in the old days. And now in the public sector, we send more than 100 million letters to the citizens every year by means of this digital post solution. And every time we save €1 or €2, and that adds up. That's several hundred million euros in savings, and it makes everything a lot easier for everybody. It just works. When I need to apply for something, it is also digital. This is me. I have logged into our citizen portal. Borger.dk, Citizen.dk. I have logged in. I have now single sign-on to all digital services available from here. So when which I did last month, I need to apply for a new passport for my son. I did it here. I went to my local municipality where the service was already logged in, and I applied for it, for the passport. And also integrated with the medicine card. Here I can see what subscriptions that have been put out for my youngest son. So basically, we are at a place in Denmark where all communication is digital by default. More than 100 services are mandatory digital, written in law. You must apply digital. You can only get this by means of digital, except if you get an exemption. But mainly digital. This has been driven by a political goal where our government, our parliament said, we want to achieve not 100% digitization, but 80%. 80% of all communication must be digitalized in a few years, and we will do this by doing it mandatory, by ensuring quality of service, and have exemption for those who cannot. We had a big debate when we did this in 2012-13. What about the social issues? How about the elderly? How about the disabled? Were we leaving them behind? This debate we have no more. The most active users are the elderly. They have taken this in. They are as digital as everybody. Many disabled says, please, this is a big help. I don't have to go to the municipality. I can do it electronically, and we have all these aids. It's an advantage to us. The one group we have troubles with is the digital natives, the kids 18, 20, 25. Of course, they can do the digital, but government, they have other things on their mind. So they are the ones that we have challenges with, and this, by today, just works. So I'll sum up this by saying that the digital life in Denmark is good and it works. And how did we come here? I will share a little bit about the journey to this digital by default, good digital service, good digital life. We have for many years, along with the municipalities and the regions, made cross-government digital strategies. We started in 2001 with the first strategy, 2004, Very important, in 2007, we made a strategy that was all about infrastructure, getting the infrastructure in place. The EID, the digital post solution, the citizen portal, getting them in place. We were not talking mandatory, we were talking optional, but getting the infrastructure in place. And we did that for 3-4 years, and when we went into the strategy of 2011, we said, we have a very, very good offering. The challenge that we have is that this is not the primary way of communicating for the citizens and not for the authorities. How can we break the ice? How can we get this to be the primary way and get enough quality in? We must make it mandatory, because then we drive quality, we drive traffic, and we get this to work. It was a leap of faith, but we took it, our politicians, our government took it in 2011, and then we moved on to where we are today, where digital service is the way that we do it, and it works very well. One thing I will share with you from the digital strategy from 2011 is that very last point, the basic data program. I had the pleasure of being part of that. I will take that and add a few words about that, because I think it is most important, also as Mr. Jolovsky said, the basic data is the foundation of very much of what we're doing. We put in a basic data program in 2012. I will share with you some of the characteristics of this basic data program. It covers the most important registers, the person's registration, business, the property, the geodata, the addresses. They said these are our base registries. We must make sure that they have sufficient quality and coherence. Did they have that? Not at all. So we made a big transformation program aimed at improving quality, investing in data quality, investing in coherence, moving data from one registry to another, removing duplication, and filling the gaps, so that we have now a coherent master data infrastructure for the public sector. A lot of blood, sweat, tears, and money has gone into that. Semantics, very important. We model these data with the same rules, so we have one coherent modeling of all of the data. It's important for communication, but also for this job of making the data coherent. We need, if you don't have the map, you can't walk the march. So we mapped this and did a as is and a to be mapping with the common rules, and then we built the data, the base registries to these specifications. We have built a technical platform which is serving these data from one platform in the same format, making them highly available. We have made these data freely available, no cost, because we were charging each other, money were moving around in the public sector, and that was having friction, meant data duplication, that was money earned, that really was money lost. So we have made data freely available. We have been working very much on the concept of authoritative data. We want to make sure that these data are good enough so that when another agency receives them, they can do their case management, their decisions at once without asking the citizens and without checking again. We must be able to trust data and to make cases upon them without asking again. That requires semantic, quality, but also a lot of legal work. We need the laws to support that the data over here are good enough for this, this, and this. This has been a great enterprise to do that. We have established a very good governance for this. We have a governance board running this, where we have the data providers sitting along with the big data users, the municipalities, the regions, tax, and so forth, so that we have the data providers and the data users negotiating how these data must develop. This is very, very important. And as Mr. Jolovsky also said, the base registries, they are the foundation, the prerequisite for once only. So that's very much about the journey so far, and now I'll turn to digital transformation in Denmark, talk about where we are now, what we see, and first of all, just a little bit about what is digital transformation. We are, of course, talking about this everywhere. This figure is a survey made that asks industries, how much will digital transformation impact you in a few years? And information technologies, telecom, banking is at the top. At the bottom is government. What does that signify? Does that signify that digital transformation will not impact government that much? No. No way that's what it means. We will be impacted by digital transformation just as much as banking, groceries, all other big sectors. And we are starting to see it in health and tax. I think what this means is that we are coming later to the party than other sectors. We, as public sectors, have this semi-protected status of monopolies in our country. We are not challenged that much. We, of course, are very eager, all of us. We want to do it, but we do not have the life and death threats that many other sectors are living with. For them, it's transformation or die. I say we will face the same. It will be in the eyes of our citizens. If we do not realize the potential that is in a fully digital, transformed government, they will no longer accept us. They will not re-elect our politicians. They will not be content, trust us that much. So we also have a very strong impetus to do a digital transformation. And what is digital transformation about? In Denmark, I just say, we are on the verge of it. What does it mean that we are on the verge of it? I think where we are in Denmark, I have the picture that we have digitized everything. We have more than 4,000 IT systems just in central government. Everything has a digital system. But it's here, 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 here. Very, very, very many local digital systems that are producing services, but also are producing data. What has dawned upon us, on everybody, and that's why we're talking so much about data, is that if we could connect this knowledge, if we could connect these services, if we could reuse the data that citizens are giving over here, we could deliver a much more complete, efficient service. That will be the digital transformation in government. That will be the joined up, coherent government that will be driving us. And that will be driving us in every sector. And I also think one of the things that will be driving us is that health problems, health issues are not just health issues. What's happening in the social, in the taxation, in employment is very, very important for health policy. And so it is all across government. To deliver results, we very, very often have to work cross-government, coordinated to deliver results to the citizens. Again, this will be the digital transformation. We have many political initiatives in Denmark which has this as their cornerstone, as their starting point. And my minister for innovation, her main task this year is bringing on a coherence reform for the public sector, to make the public sector more coherent. A coherence reform, what is that? Of course, we can see it's an interoperability reform. Make the public sector interoperable to deliver coherent services. Very much put a focus on what we can deliver. Digital transformation, what does that mean in government? It means a lot of things, a lot of things. These are just some of the key words which I think are most important for us assembled in this room. Citizen-centric, coherence, citizens' journeys. How do citizens travel from one agency to another, to a municipality, to a region, and get a coherent service and joined up government? It is trust and transparency, very, very important going forward. It's agile, it's time to market. I think one of the most frustrating things about being in public service, in government, is how long time things are taking. From idea to realization, and initiatives is often 5, 6, 7, 8 years. I think you may recognize the same. I think for me, it's very frustrating, and it just is not good enough for the citizens and the expectations that they have. We have to be able to deliver transformations in 2, 3, 4 years, from action to deliver. Our politicians expect it, and they can really not understand why we cannot do that. Well, because, and we have to make a tender, and it's difficult, and the data, and we have many good reasons, but it's just not good enough. We have to be more agile, more time to market, and we need an ICT infrastructure, semantic interoperability, that supports this. Every time we do a new project, we start all over. When we do an integration project, we start all over. That just does not work in this day and age of digital transformation. Big, big challenge for us collected in this room. And just to say it once again, data is the most important resource. What drove transformation for us in the last decade was the World Wide Web. The e-government, the e-commerce has transformed the world. What will transform and what we will all revolve about is data, the ability to collect, manage, share, utilize data. That is the main challenge for the next decade. Yes, supporting interoperability and digital transformation in Denmark. Our starting point for this is the Digital Coherent Public Sector, which is the Danish Interoperability Framework, the Danish architecture for sharing data and for supporting cross-government processes. This is an architecture which is mandatory for the initiatives, which are part of our digital strategy, cross-government digital strategy, which is very much a subset of what we do in government, but we are doing it there, we are developing it there, and then it is optional for the rest of the government. This is based exactly on the European Interoperability Framework. We are saying this is a local implementation of the IFE. This is very, very important to us. We have committed us to European interoperability and have built this on the IFE. It supports the once-only principle and the digital single market. So that is our starting point for working with digital transformation and interoperability in Denmark. We have translated this in English, and you will find the reference for it here in the slides. And I will now use the LOST framework, which many of us know. I will talk about legal, organizational, semantic and technical interoperability. Take a view into this and what we are talking about in Denmark with these 4 perspectives. First, legal, and I have extended this to also say political and ethical interoperability. And I have put a scale in there. Why have I put a scale in there? Because what our ambition is, what we're talking about, is that we want to use data so much more, because we can see all these wonderful perspectives for citizens, for businesses, and for efficiencies. We want to use data a lot more. That's one of the scales. On the other side, we have the citizens, and what they say to us: yes, we want these wonderful integrated services, but we are somewhat worried about all the data. We are worried about what you know about us. We are worried about your ability to take good care of our data. Why are they worried? Yes, we all know the stories that also, I think, are worrying us. This is difficult going forward. We cannot brush this aside. If we want to put more on the scale that says much more data usage, we also have to put more on the scale that says ethics, privacy and security. We have to balance this. If we don't balance this, we will lose our license to operate. We will lose the trust and the ability to going forward. And just a few more about that, a little more about that. In the Danish Parliament, they have agreed. They have made an agreement cross Parliament to make legislation digitization ready. And the Parliament has agreed upon 7 principles, which are in there. Basically, it means we must write our laws so that they are ready for digitization. This is a watershed in Denmark. 5-10 years ago, we said, it is the job of digital, of you guys, it's the job of you guys to put the laws into IT systems. We make the laws, you must put them into IT systems. This has shown to be horribly difficult, and we have our Danish share of scandals and projects that has run afoul. And one of the reasons they have run afoul is that when we try to hold some of the complexities that works in the physical world, or sometimes do not work in the physical world, when we try to put that into IT systems, it becomes horribly complex, and this IT system just do not work, or they get very, very late. So now we have reached an agreement, which is a watershed moment, that we must make our laws so that they are able to be digitized. And we also sometimes are starting to work the other way around. We are saying we want this digital administration. What is the laws that should regulate this so that we actually have turned it around? It's a watershed moment for us. One of the principles, number 4, which I've highlighted, is about semantics. Wonderful. Says we must use uniform concepts in legislation, and we must reuse data. We do not really know how to make this work in practice. We are still developing this model, but we have the principle, we have the agreement, which is wonderful. Another thing I will share with you is, of course, the GDPR, which is very important and very good in the other scale, which is giving us a framework for privacy, and I think is a huge competitive advantage for Europe going forward. It is also very, very burdensome to work with, but sometimes it's necessary. We have, of course, implemented this in Danish law, and one of the things that we have done also to make data more available is that we have added a clause that says that a minister can, by provision, say that data collected for one purpose may also be used for other purposes. He can do that as a ministerial act. When he does that, he must go to Parliament, to our data protection agency and our Parliament, to the relevant committees and say, I will make this provision to take these data from over here and use them over here. And they can veto this, but we have made a procedure for reusing, on a legal level, reusing data much more efficient with parliamentary oversight, and also with our data protection agency oversight. This is a mechanism for making clarity about where can we reuse data. This has been some very, very exciting months in Denmark. This is in Danish. Our Scandinavian friends can read this. I will translate a few of them. This is highlights from Danish newspapers. State surveillance will be reality. Is state control liberal? Legal legislation gives access to secret surveillance. We have had a very, very big debate about data usage, the limits for data usage. What is the good, the right uses of data? And we are still struggling with this balance, but we have a very, very large debate about this. Yes. Organizational interoperability. What we are trying to do, and what we see is very important here, is that we are working to support interoperability in domains and between domains. We see all domains, being that environment, tax, health, are working to make coherence within their domain, a very, very important endeavor, which we must support. And also, from our perspective, we must support interoperability between the domains. We must make a core which supports interoperability in domains and between domains. This is at the core of the way that we are working. I will talk more about what is in this core later. What we often meet when we come with our solutions is that we have this very wonderful solution for tax, for health, and they say, yes, sure, but, well, not right now because it doesn't fit. I think that's a challenge that many of us meet. I think that is one of the frustrating things working with the line of work that we are. But just step out to the other side. How do they see us? This is the square peg and the round hole. Yes, sure, but it's not working. You haven't tested it. It doesn't fit our purpose. And if we want to take yours, you must make it fit. And I think there's a very, very important lesson in this for us. We must make this fit for purpose. We must make the solutions that we bring on very, 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 very good. That's a big challenge to us. That's where we need our ambition to be. Yes. Semantic interoperability very much at the heart here, and at the heart of our work with semantic interoperability in Denmark is our Semantic Interoperability Framework. We have made common sector modeling rules. It will be part of the sessions later, so I will not go into details about this. Just say that this is codified best practice that we have made into rules that we are carrying out and decimating, and we also see this as a very important foundation for data asset management. And also another thing, interoperability is not only between domains, it is also from laws to IT service. The chain that we are trying to build is our politicians saying, we want to make this reform. They put it into law. Concepts, logical models, which must be in the end, and that's where the citizens meet them, must be IT services, e-delivery services, web services. We have to have a chain here that is connected, a tool chain that is strong and that is fast. That is very, very important for us in what we're working with. And our strategy, how do we get this to work? We are saying rules, tools, and resources. We are making rules. We are making tools for making it easy to do it right, and we are developing together resources for applying this. And as I said, you will be able to learn more about this in our tool session, and I also will recommend the session from Flanders, which is also very much into this and has very, very good thoughts about this. And just to sum up on the semantics, I think the semantics is key because we are supporting interoperability in two dimensions, domain to domain and also from laws to IT services, and it is the foundation for asset management. Semantics is key. Technical interoperability, the T in the last, technical interoperability is excruciating hard, because we are making IT solutions in very, very many different ways. These are the plugs, electrical plugs used in different places in the world, makes it difficult when we travel. There are at least as many ways to expose data, standards, security, and so forth, which makes interoperability, technical interoperability, very, very hard. We need to make this more simple, more plug and play. Our approach in Denmark is that we are talking about some primary patterns for secure data interchange. The most important is FTP batch. That is what is running digital government still. It's old-fashioned, but it works. And what we are trying to develop is the request-response pattern, which we see will be very, very important going forward. We are developing a Danish web service REST profile, secure profile, which we see will play a very, very big role in connecting base registries and otherwise. And that's one of the things I would love to have a discussion about is, could we do this on a European level? We are doing a national profile. This does not really have to be national, and I think it would sit better on a higher level. Could this be a European profile for using web services and REST? Another pattern is the push pattern. We are looking into evaluating a national e-delivery infrastructure. And of course, EU CEF has a very, very good, wonderful implementation here. Please carry on the good work, get it into all the big DG programs. And finally, we are eyeing linked data, the technology of linked data, RDF, Sparkle, which holds some big opportunities. Horizon 2020 is funding a lot of programs here. Could there be a need for a common reference? We have tried to look into in Denmark. Can we build a base registry interconnection with linked data? And it's just not ready for us, and it's too big a project for us on a national level. Could there be a project that we got together on here in Europe? And finally, a perspective on this. I think what we are doing in Denmark is that we are building an interoperability framework, and even more an interoperability framework. And I think one of the things that we could have some reflection upon is that should there be an EU interoperability platform which supports interoperability in domains, between member states? And I think one of the things that are pointing in that direction is that very, very many of the pieces of the building blocks are already there in the good work of the ISA and the SEF. I think we could build upon that very much. I think it's primarily important to focus on a few high-value assets, the square and the square peg and the round hole. Just make a few things, but make them very, very, very good, make them working, and do it in the most important areas. I suggest that we should consider identity and access management, basic concepts and basic data, the semantic framework, data asset management, and the data exchange. Could we make something here that we could that we could work upon? I think it would be a good help for all of us. We must ensure strategic and technical coherence in this. It is most important. Of course, the main challenges is ensure widespread use in the big DG programs. I know, of course, you want that, and also know how hard it is. They always are too busy and too big programs, and it doesn't fit. But it is most important. We are trying to make interoperability in Denmark, and when we talk to the domains, to tax, to health and so forth, they ask, but what is EU coming with? Will this be compatible? What EU will meet us with? And if we can say yes, I have a very, very good course in driving interoperability on a national level and preparing us for European interoperability. And of course, supporting cross-border and member state uses, the good work that you're already doing. One final point, then I'll end, is that, of course, there's a lot of hype about artificial intelligence, but I think this time it is extremely important. That is not the present battle, but it will be the next battle. That is where we take all these fabulous data that we are developing and gathering and making available and putting them into use. We must position the work of semantic interoperability in that we are preparing, making data available also for artificial intelligence. We must integrate into that agenda. That is very important. Because it's a race, it's a global race. America, Google, Apple, Netflix, China, Tencent, Alibaba, it's a global race. But here, one last thing about football. Here I root for Team Europe. I think we have some very, very important advantages. We have the good cooperation, we have the open standards, we have a lot of data, and I think we have a lot of things going for us. So one for Team Europe. Thank you.